Greg Patterson from A&L Laboratories. I'm the CEO and founder of A&L Canada. Today we're going to talk about the services we offer at A&L Canada, particularly focusing on the quality aspect of cannabis production and how we can assist the grower in cannabis production. Our full-service laboratory provides comprehensive testing in cannabis and hemp industry. It is really a step beyond most analysis of most laboratories because we take the crop from growing it to start right through to the finished product and offer services throughout the grow to all of our clients that may have questions on the analytical process that we provide. A&L is an innovative research-driven technology company that's been focused on sustainable development of all crops. Throughout our 35 years and plus of crop production, we focus on a wide range of agricultural industries, environmental, food, and pharma. We deal with soil, food, water, fertilizers, environmental testing, biologicals, microbiology, and molecular microbiology, and a lot of disease diagnostics with a wide range of crops, both viral and bacterial. So we have a full complement of employees here, over 130 employees at our facilities, 13 CCAs, crop advisors, certified crop advisors, and 25 PhDs and master's level staff on research and in laboratories that perform these analysis. So quite a complex group of individuals that make up our company and provide the services to our clients. We invested a number of years ago in cannabis. Since 2015, we've been licensed under the Cannabis Act, and we continue to make significant investments in both people and equipment and resources, constantly working on research initiatives on improving what we have to offer. And our commitment here is to move forward with industry as this industry develops, providing a number of expertise and production insights on how to grow this crop, both dealing with water analysis, disease diagnostics, food safety and release testing, and just basically looking towards producing a consistent quality crop at the end. So when you look at what we have to offer in this laboratory, again, we take it right from the time you start to plant the crop right through to the finished product. We also have seed to sale software for traceability for those that links directly with our software. We have the ability to help you with microbiology within the testing, soil and plant and media diagnostics, disease diagnostics, water, tissue, all those different things that you require to make sure that you do a complete job in testing your crop and producing your crop. So our laboratory, again, we've been certified for over 4 years. We have a full degree of certifications and accreditations for both cannabis testing, food testing, and other tests that we perform at A&L, again, with a fully qualified staff of technicians and researchers that help us perform that. We also have a research license on cannabis and are starting to engage in even more research on site with our own facility to continually improve what we offer you. As I said before, we're continually adding to our equipment list. Some of the equipment that we have available, as you can see here from this equipment list, and this is what we have on site presently, and we're continually ordering new equipment to complement this as our volumes increase and our needs increase for the different analysis that we provide. So you can see there's a lot we've got invested in this through what's required for Health Canada. We are probably the fastest turnaround in the industry with quality, accurate results. And again, we also have the expertise with production of the crop itself to help you in growth and some of the questions you might have in growing this particular crop. So as we look at this whole cycle of what we offer, right from soil and media analysis to water analysis to the tissue testing program and our plant monitoring program that I'll review with you here in a few minutes, a full complement of disease diagnostics. We have 5 plant pathologists on staff that can assist with that. And again, the final testing of your finished product and the ability to develop different technologies and different testing for different matrices as this industry moves into different products. So in the field of research, we focus on quality and all the crops we deal with. We've been looking at crop quality for over 35 years. We work with growers in field to to focus on the quality of the crop that they're trying to produce. We believe the yield comes with the quality. But in this particular crop, our main focus is focused on production of the typical alkaloids that is sought after for this particular crop, that gives it the nutraceutical components that we require. So we're focusing everything we do on being able to produce this consistent quality predictably and have a consistent result time and time again. So we talk about indoor growing. We start out with, again, to focus on quality, but we need to have a look at if you're growing in media or nutrient solution. We need to be able to analyze the media and give you what the nutrient base is and how conducive it is to growing. Is it high in sodium or salts? Does it need a calcium load? What's in the media? And then be able to design a nutrition program around that, or some suggestions. And then if you're in rock-wool, a nutrient solution analysis is required to start to make sure we got a certain water quality and nutrient base to start with. Then we go forward either with media or in rock-wool. We'll be looking at a timely tissue analysis to basically address nutrient disorders, but more importantly, be able to adjust our nutrient solution as we grow through and towards the quality of the crop that we're looking for. Keep in mind, this is a very hungry crop. It changes hour by hour. And if we can be proactive on looking at what this crop needs, we can avoid some unnecessarily disorders that could cause us not just quality problem, but also disease issues that might occur. When we look at media, we do saturated paste analysis here, or another analysis that we developed ourselves for greenhouse growers particularly, that looks at, this is classified as an organic soil report here, but we call it a soilless media report. And this is a particular report that's designed for giving you a good understanding of what the nutrient load is of that. And in a lot of cases, we'll make recommendations because a lot of these media that you buy are not very consistent. We might make a suggestion on amending these media as you fill pots with either a little bit of a nutrient load or possibly you're a little bit low in calcium. We might make some suggestions on how to balance that out so you've got a better base to start with. When we look at a rock-wool growing, again, your nutrient analysis is very important. We want to start out with a good understanding of your raw water to make sure it's conducive of a good grow. Your bicarbonates are where they should be, and just the overall quality of the water. And then from there, we also offer the whole nutrient solution package. And we're going to need this on a timely basis so we can give you guidance as you grow through the grow. We have nutrient solution recommendations for crops based on what we classify as a low, medium, and high productive crop. And the nutrient is low depending on the crop load. And it's usually predicted to us by the tissue analysis that you're taking. The thing you do as a grower is let the crop tell you what it needs, but be able to respond to that before it becomes quality limiting or yield limiting in the process, because it's really hard to fix it after you go beyond. So we look at two samples as basically fuel gauges of that crop. We want to watch how that fuel gauge moves, and we really want to catch it before it gets into the deficient or low, what we call point of no return range, and keep topping up the tank to make sure it's in these adequate ranges. Just like media analysis, we also work with nutrient solution analysis, both water quality and your solution analysis, your nutrient feed. So going in to grow, we want to know what your raw water looks like. We want to know what the bicarbonate levels are and where your base start is. And then from your nutrient solution analysis, we could make suggestions on where we think you should start for the different nutrients and make suggestions to the grower. So we'll be asking you for a nutrient solution analysis from time to time as well. Our plant tissue program is quite extensive. We have a number of analysis we perform with a number of ranges in production throughout the grow. Our plant tissue analysis is designed to act like a fuel gauge for this crop. Again, think about each of these nutrients as a tiny little fuel gauge of nutrients supplied to the crop. And as this crop grows, it will feed from these fuel tanks and drop your nutrient levels. And the idea here is to pick up on and top up these tanks before they become quality and yield limiting to the crop, and hopefully before they get to a point of no return. Our plant monitoring program, both for indoor grow and outdoor grow production, we have a number of nutrient levels throughout different stages of growth. and production. Again, our research is based on optimum nutrient ranges from our research focused on quality, all the quality aspects of our cannabis production. It's quite important to maintain these ranges right from start to finish. Our work has been developed by our research on different ranges, our in-house research. This is constantly being updated as we get better information on these ranges and better information from our own research on quality aspects. But for the most part, these ranges, regardless of your variety, really give us a good understanding of where that nutrient load should be and where we need to keep it in line. So regular testing will ensure maximum quality and allow us to continue with the quality throughout the grow and not miss any levels or have it drop into some of these deficient ranges I talked about. So with our analysis, again, we have significant ranges. It's important that you tell us what stage a crop's at when you submit the sample so we can give you the right information back and match the plant to the proper growth stage. And again, it doesn't matter what variety you're growing. The stages are very important so we can give you that proper information back on all the nutrients. So how you approach this is you need to locate a particular spot within the grow, either the growth room or the field that you're working with. Try to go back to some place very close to the same spot each time you take a sample, because conditions do change even through a small growing room, and flag that area so you can again go back and get samples from about the same region of that area each time. Again, keeping varieties different. So again, you'll sample both variety and locations each time you go back and take a sample. So when you sample these plants, you're going to take the most recently matured leaf. That's usually 3 to 5 leaves down from the top of the growing tip. You want to sample from about 15 to 30 plants to give you a good understanding from an indoor grow. We need about 20 grams of wet leaf tissue for the analysis that we perform. And again, you want to take a sample likely from the same time of day. Again, similar growing conditions to follow up with a sample later. Outdoor grow is no different. You're going to take most recently matured leaf. Again, that's about 3 to 5 down from the tip of the plant. Again, different than indoor grow, we have to be not just consciously aware of the different varieties, but there's a lot more field variability or soil variability than an indoor grow. So we need to make sure we have a good understanding of what the field variability looks like, and because we'll be dealing with different correctives from that field soil sample as well. So that's important, not to mix different soil types or different field variability. So tissue sampling sometimes is used for troubleshooting, both indoor and outdoor. If you're going to do that, we suggest you take a comparison sample, one from a good area and a poor area. Even in indoor grow, if it's coming from media, you need to have a media test as well for both good and bad areas, and same thing for outdoor grow, a soil sample from the base of the plant from both the good and the poor areas, so you've got good understanding of what the differences might be. So we look at getting the samples in the lab. It takes us about 24-hour turnaround time to get that information back to you, and that information is going to come back to you by email. Plus, it's going to be uploaded to our Dataweb, our online client portal, where you can access your information, and it's archived there for future reference and your information database. We collect this, keep this information basically forever, so it's available to you on anytime you need it. So our plant monitoring program is quite complete. It needs to be done on a regular basis, particularly more importantly, from an indoor grow about every week to 2 weeks is what we see the most growers are working with. An outdoor grow where you have the soil that buffers it is not quite as important, but what really is important is to make sure that you're sampling at the start of each stage of growth. So as you change crop stages, we're going to change nutrient demand, and nutrient demands change very quickly, particularly as you go from vegetative to flowering stage and then into full flower. So we really want to be aware of what's going on at that stage, because plant can run out of nutrients very quickly. So we look at quality cannabis. In order to get consistent quality, we must listen to what the plant is telling us. These plants are very hungry, and they need balanced nutrition from start to finish to make sure we come up with a finished product. Running out of gas midway through is going to have a big impact on how that bud is basically being constructed. It could get loose and open and just really change the overall final product of the crop. So we want to start monitoring this crop very early Let the plant tell you week to week what it needs, and then adjust the feed accordingly. Again, more importantly on indoor grow with rock wool than it is outdoor, because we have no buffering there whatsoever, and things can change dramatically in that nutrient feed. But again, as we go into flowering, everything must be top notch as we go into flowering. And we're going to follow, as you can see on the left-hand side here, that we're going to be following particularly nutrient balances like nitrogen to potassium right through the grow. We want to maintain a 1.1 to 1.3 nitrogen potassium throughout the grow. We want to have a calcium to boron of 400 to 1 to 600 to 1. And these particular ratios really have an impact on your quality, both your total THC content, your burn quality, your terpenes, and just basically your overall burn quality of this crop and how it actually cures out. So our standard analysis, report analysis, look like this: either our standard plant tissue report with the bar graphs, and then our plant monitoring report with the tiny little graphs that you see on the right-hand side. And how we read that and interpret that is quite important for understanding how we monitor this crop. The plant monitoring program is very easy to read, and it helps you see more of a predictive approach to where the crop is going and gives you kind of a heads up on what's going to happen there. So we look at this report and look at the tissue samples. Keep in mind that tissue samples are not like a soil analysis. A low tissue analysis does not mean you've got a poor crop. That means a crop is using the nutrients. Think of each of these little bars as fuel tanks. And as the crop is using or growing and producing a crop, it's going to draw fuel from each of these little fuel tanks. Keeping them topped up and not allowing them to get into the low deficient zone is where we want to be. And really, you won't have an impact on overall quality if you do that. Once they drop into deficiencies, it's not that likely that you can bring that crop back, and then you're going to have a quality issue. The nice thing about the plant monitoring report is each of the nutrients have these tiny little line graphs that kind of give you a better understanding. The blue is the high range, the red is the low range, the green line is where your sample analysis report is, and that kind of shows you week to week what the direction of the crop's going within those ranges. So it gives you kind of a little more of a forecast on where you see the direction of that nutrient, and helps you understand just what you have to tweak in the feeding system to overcome a possible deficiency. Oftentimes also, when you send in a tissue analysis, you should support that with a nutrient analysis from your feed water. The reason for that is based on the stage of growth and based on what your tissue sample says, our agronomists can say, based on where your nutrient feed is, we suggest you increase your potassium to this, or you increase your magnesium to this. So we can make some suggestions in season of where you should target your feed. And again, one size does not fit all here. We can't say this is where you're going to be at this stage and this is what you're going to be at this stage, because it's all dependent on what the crop's telling us and what it needs. We can overdo it, or we can come short if we're not paying attention to what the plant analysis is telling us. So we work with both of these together, and with that we can make sure that we're going to come up with a more consistent finished product. So when we look at what we're trying to accomplish here, I'm just going to walk through a few reports to help you understand how important this is to understand where the nutrient load is going through the season and how we use these reports. So in the plant monitoring program, the question is, when should I sample? Well, again, with Rockwell, every 1 to 2 weeks at the most. You don't want to be letting it go any longer than that. So that's what you want to do. So when actual time of day should be the same in each growing zone, so you got some consistency there. Not that it is off, it make that much difference, but it's important to be sampling throughout these stages. And then what to do after we're sampling. Again, we're going to let the tissue sample of the plant tell us what it needs, and then you can tweak your nutrient feed based on what nutrient is requiring some attention, both high and low. So this is an example of some of our research work we've done in looking at good burn and good THC content. This is what I classify as a 10 out of 10. And you can see here by the nutrient analysis that we got fairly consistent results. We're not all over the map. The nutrient load and nutrient direction is fairly consistent. When you look at some of these ranges we talked about, our nitrogen to potassium starts out a little bit higher than we want to, but we drop down to that 1 between 1 to 1 and 1.3 right through the grow. Our calcium to boron also started out a little bit high, but we maintained that throughout the grow at, between around 500 to 1, which is exactly what you want to do to give you the quality. And this shows up every time we maintain these ranges, very consistent. Every time we see a lot of fluctuation between these ranges, we have some real issues with both yield and quality, but particularly quality. This is an example of a low quality burn and lower THC, and again, a little more erratic nutrient load throughout this grow. We look at the nitrogen, potassium, a little bit lower to start out. We again drop below that 1 to 1 or 1.1. We drop to 0.9 and 0.7 throughout that grow. Our calcium to boron fluctuates below 400 to 1 in a couple of cases, but stays in the low 400 to 1. So this was not a real good quality. Fair for the industry, but it's not an ideal. Here we have a real poor quality and poor burn, and you can see how erratic the nutrient feed was in that plant monitoring program throughout the grow. A lot of fluctuation throughout the grow, and that resulted in a very poor quality, very poor yield, and a real poor quality ash. Look at the numbers here again. You see very erratic nitrogen, potassium, nowhere as close to where we want to be. A little bit too much on the high end. And again, calcium to boron ratio all over the map. Very seldom we were within that ideal range, and quite often we were very, very much in the high end. So again, keeping that 1.1 to 1.3 nitrogen potassium ratio right through the grow, and a calcium to boron of 400 to 1 to 600 to 1. And again, in some cases, to do that, the boron levels are going to be 100 to 120 ppm, and that's where we want to be. Our ranges are reflecting a little bit lower than that right now, but we're adjusting these ranges as we see the need. So to maintain adequate optimum ranges, using our PMP program, responding nutrient needs before they become a limiting issue, it's very critical to maintain a high phosphate and potassium throughout the range and throughout the grow. Nitrogen, big influence on alkaloid production. Too high or too low will affect alkaloids. So we really want to regulate that and watch that, and don't get too aggressive. It's easy to put nitrogen in a plant. It's difficult to take it out. Again, maintaining that critical nitrogen to potassium ratio and calcium to boron to finish this crop properly. Allow the nutrients to decline naturally towards the finish, especially nitrogen, but maintain a fairly good nitrogen potassium ratio. We want adequate K and boron throughout the grow. This helps the plant convert nitrates and gets rid of those high nitrate problems we sometimes see. And then if you do all this and work with all this, you should not need to flush. If we let the plants finish naturally, there's going to be a better crop, a more consistent crop. If you're flushing, it means you have not maintained a proper nutrient feed. So really not important to flush if you've done a job with a good management program. Magnesium is one of those nutrients that's very, very tough on this crop. We can come into magnesium deficiencies very quickly with this crop. And again, it has a lot to do with how hungry this crop is and how it uses phosphorus in producing the alkaloids we're after. So magnesium deficiency can happen very quickly. And we oftentimes see this sclerosis on this crop, particularly as we go into flowering. Now, if we're regulating our magnesium and watching it in the tissue analysis, those chlorotic spots will go away. So that's quite common. But we want to be real careful that we manage this and watch it early, because it can really catch us off guard. This is a crop that had a problem. The grower thought might be disease, didn't know what it was. So they sent in a tissue analysis, and from the tissue analysis for both disease and nutritionally, this looked fine. It didn't look like there was a problem whatsoever. I was suspicious about magnesium just because of the way the crop looked. And then we went back to the tissue samples they had taken. In the earliest stages, the crop was running magnesium deficient, calcium and boron deficient early, and maintained a low magnesium and calcium even later into growth. And then at flowering time, the real symptoms went away in tissues as we lost the quality and the yield in that crop. And that's what's funny about magnesium, is it can go away, but the damage is done, and we didn't recognize it here. So make sure you respond when you see these indicators show up early on the tissue report, because we can't fix it later, and then the damage is done. So what we're after here is consistent product with quality bud. We can do that through using analysis in our PMP program from start to finish. We do have people on staff that can help you walk through that and give you some advice on that information. We're not going to call you because we got so many people sending samples in, but we've got an agronomist on staff all the time that can answer these questions if you've got a recent tissue and nutrient analysis. We've looked at the finished product. We've looked at the bud. We constantly look at bud analysis as kind of where do we want to be and what is a good quality bud. This is what we call one of our best quality bud analysis, and that bud came out with phosphate levels about 1, nitrogen, potassium at 1.3, and we find that for the best bud, we want to be at 1.3. And then the calcium boron in this bud was 455 to 1, which is, again, based on our tissue analysis where we think we should be, but this is where the bud was. This was a good quality as well, not as good as the first one. Phosphate was good, NK was good. Calcium to boron a little bit lower, getting closer to that 401, a little bit lower than the 455, and it did show up in the burn. The burn quality was not nearly as good as the bud before. This was a medium quality. Again, phosphate, good. We want to keep that phosphate high. This is a little higher than we really need. Again, that nitrogen decay was good, 1.3. And again, calcium to boron just a little bit light. This was a poor quality bud. This one had some problems. Phosphate, too low. THC was not there. Overall quality and yield was not there. Nitrogen decay, 1.1. And again, the calcium boron, much below the 400 to 1. And that reflected in the quality we found in the way this thing burnt in the quality of the ash. So when we look at this overall program, we want to maintain adequate optimum ranges throughout the grow, respond to these nutrient needs before they are limiting. And again, if you're using a PMP program, again, we don't want to be responding once we get the results back and being reactive. We want to be proactive. So the tissue analysis coming back should just be confirming where you think you should be at. You want to have a good fertility program in place and just manage it using these ranges. So you're tweaking it a little bit each time it comes back to you. We want to maintain P and K in the particularly high range. Again, as I said before, nitrogen too high or too low will affect alkaloid concentration. So we want to really manage our nitrogen input, maintain critical balance of nitrogen to potassium, as I said, and calcium to boron. And then allow those nutrients to decline naturally towards a finish, especially nitrogen, but always maintaining that nitrogen to potassium ratio. Adequate K to boron throughout helps it convert the nitrates, as I said before. And again, we should not need to flush. Outdoor grow, similar process. Again, we need to start with this a little bit ahead of time. We need to amend these soils, adjusting for nutrients and pH, which could take us a couple of years to get in place. We also want to test these soils for pesticide residue. And again, if we've got some residue, liming and performing some of these amendments will help break down those pesticides and get rid of them. Also, the heavy metals we need to test for. So again, that preparation or overall preparation for a site, particularly if you're not familiar with the property, should happen a couple of years before planting. Also, we want to really pay attention to our irrigation water quality because it can have a real impact on how this crop performs. So not all soils are equal. We want to provide a soil analysis and understand where those nutrient loads are. We make a recommendation based on that soil test, and we know where an optimum nutrient level should be for a fairly good overall production. And again, our recommendations are based on, they're fairly aggressive and they're based on a good production. And again, we're going to manage your nitrogen levels on the low side. Here you see 160 pounds of nitrogen to grow this crop. That might be too little or too much, but I can regulate nitrogen very quickly. The other nutrients, when I put them on a field grown situation, only about 15 to 20% of what I apply will get into that crop that year. We need to rely on some of these soil reserves to feed that crop. That's why these ratios and the percent availability of some of these nutrients is really important, because it's the soil that's going to feed this crop. We make the amendments to build those up over time and basically hopefully get a better field of production. Nitrogen, 75% of what we put on gets in the crop that year, and we can't take it away, but we sure can put it on when we need it. So even with 160 pounds in, that way I'm suggesting here, I'd probably start it with 100 to 120 pounds of N up front, and then use some kind of a drip feed or top dress application to compensate based on the time of the grow and what my tissue sample is actually telling me. So when we talk about how we're going to do this, our clean start process, we want to test the water. We want to test our media, um, the soil. We want to put together a good solid nutrient program to amend that soil. We want to make sure our transplants are clean and healthy and free of disease. And then we want to make sure we've got a plant monitoring program set up, ready to go as soon as we get these crops in the ground and they start to grow. In production, we're going to be looking at nutrients based on a PMP program throughout. And again, we don't have to do one every week to 2 weeks. We can have a little wider stretch. But again, if you've got areas in the field that you've recognized have low fertility, you want to monitor those areas a little more regularly. Again, manage your water feeds. And then this plant monitoring program is really important to put in place. And we've got some other tools here I'm going to share with you that might help you with your outdoor grow as well. So with our production capabilities and our talented staff, we have a precision agriculture program with precision soil sampling and fertility recommendations. And again, we go in and soil sample these on site-specific sampling, so we've got a good understanding of the variability that exists, because soil variability is real. A lot of people don't understand how significant it is. And then we can use remote imaging and remote UAVs to manage this crop or monitor this crop in season, and then even watching the plant health. So with our remote imaging diagnostics, this is an image of an outdoor grow, and you can see here from the image that there's a lot of variability here. But we have a lot of algorithms designed for diagnosis using these remote images that helps you understand what's going on through the season and helps you manage this crop as well if you're using that technology. When you look at some of the research fields we deal with, and this is not cannabis fields, but other research fields that we've done soil health work in, and you can see across these fields there's a lot of variability. And understanding this, when you go into grow operation, you want to avoid the real poor areas, and maybe you're not even plant in those areas until you get them amended and the soil fertility built up, because it can be a very costly mistake, and it can actually increase more disease and insect pressure into your field that's going to contaminate even the good areas. So we want to be really, really aware of some of these poor production areas. So our TerraSite RX program is available to all our clients. We start out with a soil testing program, and our soil test information is uploaded into our TerraSite platform with all the different nutrient layers that become a layer for diagnostics. And each of these maps is an individual nutrient showing you the optimum ranges, and it's all color coded, so it's very interpretive information. And then to that, we have a bunch of other algorithms that you can overlay to really get a good spot on diagnostics of what's happening. So in the remote imaging, we look at crop uniformity for maturity, nutrient variability. We have algorithms that deal with soil moisture. We have algorithms that deal with weed pressure. We have algorithms that actually look at plant health by plant throughout the field, which I'll show you here in a second. So a lot of good information that we have available, or some real good diagnostics tools that can help you not just manage this crop you're growing in that year, but moving forward and being able to diagnose what's going on. Or if you have adjacent fields that you plan on using in the future, these remote images with the soil sampling can really help you in amending and making those fields more uniform before you go into cannabis or hemp. This is just an example of one of our algorithms for cannabis. We look at actually estimation of plant height, which could give you some information on when you're going to harvest this crop or how close it is to maturity. Here you can see some other algorithms where we look at slope of the field, plant height. We got water pooling or ponding information from some of these algorithms. You can see here we got canopy size and weed density algorithms that we work with. And the bottom one is a health map. You can see there by each of those individual plants, you can see the degree of unhealthy tissue on those plants. And you can see even plant by plant, the variability within the plant. So this gives you a good understanding of the vigor and variability that exists within your own grow. So when you look at what we offer and what we have as tools in our toolbox, again, you want to avoid early contamination issues through testing of soils, avoid that pesticide and heavy metal issue, avoid pathogens in the field themselves, quality of the grow, and nutritional planning for that crop to mitigate the risk of disease and having to destroy a crop because of again, pesticide residue or something else that might show up. And again, our focus is to target high THC CBD levels and good overall quality of that crop. So again, what we offer is a lot of client services to help you with this crop, help you work your way through having a good crop, be it indoor or outdoor grow, if you use the information we have available. And again, we're constantly doing R&D in these crops to increase our support and the services we offer to make it a successful grow. So that's our commitment. That's the types of things that we offer as a company. So I thank you for your attention today. And again, come to us, talk to us about what your concerns or questions might be, and ask us how we can help.